and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. When you're looking at corn, if you don't have Roundup or you don't have Liberty as herbicide options, what can you do to control all the weeds? We'll talk about your options in conventional corn today.
We'll also discuss the 3 pre-soybean weed control strategy. It's not going to work if you just have one pre-emerge herbicide anymore in almost any soybean crop because Roundup's not killing the weeds. You're going to have to use 3 different sites of action or modes of action, as some people would call them. We'll talk about what those are today.
All right, and then the question is, will any of those control our weed of the week? Well, you have to wait till later in the show and we'll give you the answer to that. But first, here comes this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
During our Farm Basics time today, we want to talk about what are nematodes. They're a tremendously big problem on a lot of farms around the country.
Okay, first of all, when we look at nematodes, you may say, well, hold on, I can't even see them. Well, that's right, you can't. And you know, a lot of those things that you can't see, it's really hard to accept and say, wow, I don't know that this nematode thing is a big problem. And then you lose 10 bushels off your soybeans or you lose 20 bushels off your corn. Nematodes are certainly out there in all soils. We're going to see lots of nematodes. The question is, some are beneficial, some are damaging to your crop, and especially the ones that we know about, like soybean cyst nematode, for example. How do we stop things that we can't even see in the soil?
All right, well, it does get a little confusing because people want to say, well, it's a bug. Well, no, nematodes really don't fall into that category. They're totally separate. So you can't just use an insecticide that would kill insects. You have to use a nematicide that kills nematodes. But unfortunately, there aren't a lot of real good nematode products out there. In corn, for example, we've got Counter that has been used for many years as an insecticide, but it's also a nematicide. So a lot of times we'll say, hey, if you have the choice between using like a Force or Aztec that we commonly use in corn versus a Counter, if you're in a heavy nematode area where you're having problems with damaging nematodes, maybe you want to switch to Counter, or at least try some side-by-side stuff to see if that actually helps your yield.
In soybeans, when you've got nematode issues, believe me, farmers across the country know, for the most part, if they have soybean cyst nematode or if they don't, because there's really no question when you go from 50 bushel soybeans down to 20 and you see this whole area of a field starting to die off prematurely, farmers are going to check into what's going on. When they find soybean cyst nematodes out there, the control methods really have to be done as a planting time decision as well. In this case, it's planting a nematode resistant variety. Now, the thing is with nematodes, much like many other pests out there in nature, they will quickly adapt resistance to those different traits that you're going to find in soybeans. So with nematode resistant beans, are they resistant to all nematodes? No, they aren't. But some of the major species that are out and the most prevalent ones out in soils, you can use nematode resistant beans and prevent most of them from infecting your soybean plant's roots.
A lot of people ask, well, why can't we just use a nematicide in soybeans? Unfortunately, there really isn't much for nematicides in soybeans. And the other thing is some of the old products like Temic, for example, are pretty dangerous. So Temic is very restricted in where it can even be used anymore because of the danger factor. So what a lot of people are doing, if they can't make this soybean cyst nematode trait work, or that's just not flying in their area, is they're looking at something else. So seed treatments are getting talked about a lot. Votivo, for example, is a bacteria that helps repel nematodes. Chloriva is a bacterial seed treatment that actually can eat nematodes. So something that feeds on the nematode, I'm pretty excited about that. I do think we'll have more traits coming down the road. I think we'll have more biological type products that can help us control some of these damaging nematodes. But for today, that's really about all we've got is Votivo and Chloriva.
Well, nematodes aren't a bug, but they are a big problem in soils. One other big challenge that we have out in fields is weeds, like our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Your time is valuable. That's why you need a Hagie STS application system. Hagie STS products are designed for precision and efficiency, allowing you to make applications all season long with just one machine. Contact your Hagie rep today.
Presenting the new 2016 Apache sprayer. If you could save money and increase yield, why wait? Delaying change can cost you money.
It's phenomenal the return of investment it brings back. In my mind, a sprayer is the biggest return of investment you can bring back.
Apache owners apply in half the time of a full type, apply when they want versus custom, and spend less than Hydrostat owners, not to mention less weight on their crops. Go ahead and compare. We hope you do. Visit etsprayers.com to locate a dealer and how to save with an Apache. Apache, now more than ever.
For lower costs, higher production, Mandico Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Avoid costly downtime with Twister's ease of maintenance. Its unique Coulter suspension allows it to follow the contour of the field yet remain forgiving in rocks. Our hydraulically adjustable Coulter angles mean you never leave the cab, making residue management easier, more efficient. Spring or fall, the Mandico Twister is the new leader. Check with your local dealer or visit mandicoagri.com.
Our CT applicators are changing the way you apply products to seed.
The one thing we really like about the applicator is how accurate it gets the fluency dispensed on the seed.
The CT applicator brush sifts powder into small particles, resulting in even and accurate distribution.
I would strongly encourage looking at one of these applicators. The biggest selling point is the pinpoint accuracy, and we're not leaving dollars on the table.
The CT applicator can be used with any seed delivery system at the time of planting. Remember, CT applicators for the changing times.
With the success of the Case IH Steiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us. But only Case IH offers a 5-axle design to give you a smoother ride, more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction. Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
Regalia RX biofungicide activates a plant's natural defense system, limiting the effects of disease and improving overall plant health. Regalia RX complements your fungicide program to optimize yield and strengthen return on investment. Ask your retailer for Regalia RX today.
In order to save money, a lot of farmers are looking at raising conventional corn instead of Roundup Ready corn. Well, you can certainly do that on your farm, but you need to change your weed control options, obviously, because you can't use Roundup post-emerge. But not only do your post options change, your pre-option should change as well.
Well, that's really the biggest thing. When I talk to farmers that say, you know, Roundup really isn't working that well, so why spend the extra money? I'm going to go to conventional corn instead. I say that's fine. But the first big change you need to make is using a full rate of a grass herbicide pre-emerge in corn. Really, when we're giving up Roundup, the big thing we're losing is that we're losing that post-emerge grass rescue product. I mean, Roundup is cheap. It's highly effective on most grasses, even at low rates. That's the thing that I'm really regretting if I go away from that Roundup trait. So to avoid that, start off with a very high rate of a pre-emerge grass herbicide. Try and wipe out all the grasses so there are no grasses to spray post-emerge. That's the best way to do it. And you may say, well, I don't know, it's going to cost me more money. No, it's probably not going to cost you much more money than the pre-emerge herbicide program you were doing, which was a high rate of a broadleaf herbicide with a low rate of a grass herbicide. Then you came back with Roundup to clean up any escapes. We're just changing how we do things just a little bit. Let's do all the grass, pre-emerge if we can, and then post-emerge we'll try and control the broadleaves.
And don't forget that a lot of these grass control options have come down in price some. So you can get them done a little bit less expensive than you could just a few years ago. But here's the whole thing. If you've got much grass in your field, I wouldn't switch away from Roundup because of that grass rescue option. If you have to rescue in conventional corn, you know what you have? You got Accent. And that's $25 an acre by the time you figure all the adjuvants in there. So you better make sure you have great grass control, because I just want to remind you, before the Roundup days, you know what the #1 weed problem in corn was? It was annual grass. You know what the #2 problem was? Annual grass. You know what the #3 problem was? Annual grass. That was the big issue. And then Roundup came along and we're like, oh, this is so awesome. For $4 or whatever it is, I can rescue and I can kill all those grasses post-emerge. Now I got a good pre, I got a good post, I have great grass control. That's the big thing that hurts yield in corn. So you've got to make sure you have that full rate of the grass killer down. Then post-emerge, what we usually talk about is killing the broadleaves then. Yes, you'll have some activity with those grass killers, but post-emerge now, you have that product do the work. Status is my favorite, but certainly I like Impact, Loudus, Callisto, Armazon. Throw a ½ pound or a ¼ pound of atrazine with any of those if you can, and then you're usually in great shape in terms of overall weed control.
No, you're in better shape because now you've got products products that have residual. So you think about, especially those HPPDs, they've got a pretty good long residual on many of the broadleaf weeds that we're fighting in corn.
Good point.
You throw some atrazine out there post-emerge, now that little tiny bit of residual you have is actually going to do you some good. And atrazine is one of those things that I want to talk about too, because we see a lot of guys, in my opinion, wasting their atrazine pre. Will it help your pre-emerge herbicide work better? Yeah, a little bit. Will it help your post-emerge broadleaf work better? Yes, quite a bit. I think you get more bang for your buck using that atrazine post, because now you can utilize not only just the residual, the soil residual of the atrazine, you can also use the contact burning activity that it's got on a lot of broadleaf weeds.
Plus the fact it's a lot better option post-emerge environmentally. We have a lot less risk that it's going to go down into the groundwater or anything like that. All right, so we've talked about pre, you want to use that good strong rate of a grass killer. Post, we want to use these broadleaf killers with a little atrazine, but a lot of guys will ask, well, hey, I heard that Loudus is better than Callisto when it comes to killing grass post-emerge. Look, all these post-emerge products, whether it's Status, Impact, Armazon, Callisto, Loudus, and even atrazine, they have a little bit of activity on grass, just not much. So yes, if you had 10 blades of grass out there, would it take it out? Probably. I'm not too worried about it. If you've got 10 million blades of grass out there, no way, no chance. You might as well go with Accent and get it rescued, but you gotta go early. If you need a rescue with Accent, don't think that you're gonna do a good job when the grass gets bigger than 2 inches. I know on the label it'll say 4 inches. That's really pushing it. Not only have you lost yield by that point, but your grass control results, your percentage control goes down.
Well, the other thing is just the whole myth of, I can do a total post program. There is no total post program for conventional corn. There just flat isn't.
Nope.
You aren't going to control all the weeds. And then plus, if you let all the weeds get up, you're definitely hurting your corn yields. Everybody knows that. We've seen that for years, really for a generation with all the university trials and private trials. We lose yield if we let weeds grow up. This is something that's been one of the worst mistakes we've had with Roundup Ready corn. Is guys are like, oh, if I got some weeds out there, I can burn them down with Roundup. Yeah, you can have a clean field at the end of the year. I don't really care so much about that. I care about getting maximum yield and profitability in the field, and we've given up yield for years by not spraying those weeds a little bit sooner.
Well, one of the weeds you may see if you're raising any type of corn is our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you how to stop it coming up later in the show.
I choose Stein.
I choose service.
I choose results.
I choose research.
I choose genetics.
I choose Stein.
At Stein, we have products that are second to none.
You know, Stein has a background of the highest yielding genetics in the marketplace.
They are a world-class leader in genetics. We push the limits, we try new things, we develop genetics, all designed to benefit the farmer.
I choose Stein because Stein has yield.
There are no marks of conflict lining this landscape. No echoes of economic hardship. Just the unmistakable murmur of Mother Nature's hand. In the perennial quest to outperform, ensure your crop gets the nutrients it craves with a Valor phosphorus fertilizer enhancer. Nothing helps protect your investment more, so you can grow confidently no matter what comes your way. A Valor. Hold your ground.
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots from Monsanto Bioag is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more, and is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Get Quick Roots today.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
We've been dealing with AgriLiquid a little over 7 years. I was skeptical, to be honest, but I watched the results from several clients. Those results were increased production and reduction in input cost. With AgriLiquid, we saw an increase in the size of the initial root mass. For ranchers, that means forage production a lot quicker. AgriLiquid works. The bottom line is profitability.
want great weed control in your soybeans, and I don't care if we're talking Roundup beans, Liberty, or conventional, your best bet is to start with a great pre-program because we don't have very many good post-emerge options, and I would even throw Roundup and Liberty in that. We can't kill everything. If it gets big, we've got to start good, and if you've got a lot of weeds on your farm, especially a lot of these Roundup resistant weeds, start with the 3 pre. We want to explain that today.
All right, so when we think about these 3 different sites of action pre-emerge, we're trying to take every shot we can on some of these tough to kill resistant weeds. We're mainly looking at broadleaf weeds, but don't underestimate how important good grass control is as well. That's certainly going to help you out in terms of yield rather than letting the grass get up and start pulling away water and nutrients from your crop. So first of all, we've got the DNAs. We've got your Treflan, Sonlan, or Prowl option. Now these are a lot of times known as the yellows because they are yellow. And when we think about Treflan and Sonlan, they have to be instantly incorporated if you want to get the maximum out of those products. Then when it comes to Prowl, if you're in no-till or you just want to do a one-pass, real light tillage, Prowl would be a great product for you. We use a lot of Prowl on the farm here. Because we're in some minimum till situations or strip till situations, Prowl can work nicely.
Treflan has the most carryover. That's why it's the cheapest. We usually don't talk about applying the full rate, the full 2-pint rate. Yes, it would be better for broadleaves, all right? It'd be better for lamb's quarters. It'd be better for palmer pigweed and water hemp, but we worry about carryover into corn or wheat. So if you're down south, you can probably get by with that. In the northern U.S., we would never recommend 2 pints of Treflan. Use 1.5 pints. Now, if you want to use a full rate, switch to Sonlan or Prowl. There you can use the full rate and you don't have quite the carryover that you do with Treflan.
Okay, let's move on to these other sites of action. And the first one I want to talk about is just wildly popular. It's the PPOs. It's products like Authority and Valor. It seems like in soybeans, if I talk to any farmer, just about any part of the country, and they're going to use a pre for soybeans, I say, what are you going to use? They'll typically say one of the Authority products or one of the Valor products. There is another product in that chemical family, Sharpen. We don't talk a lot about Sharpen when it comes to soybean weed control because you're limited. You can only use about 1 ounce safely in front of soybeans. So why do that? If you can't use a full rate of the product and get the full residual out of it, but Authority and Valor you can use at high rates and get good weed control. And the other thing with those products is you have a lot of choices because there are a lot of different premixes that contain those products that you might use.
But I want to come back to just the straight PPO. That's what my preference is. So straight Authority versus straight Valor, let's just look at those 2 things individually. Some people will say, oh, Authority is a better product. Well, if you're comparing the low rate of Valor to the high rate of Authority, then yeah, Authority is a better product. Now Authority has a very long residual. Valor has a lot less residual and you can rotate to just about any crop the next year. So they are a little bit different in that respect, but both of them have very good activity on palmer pigweed and water hemp and lamb's quarters and a lot of these tough weeds, especially the small-seeded broadleaves that we're dealing with today.
Okay, the other site of action that we like to talk about pre-emerge is Metribuzin. It is in that triazine family, so it's a relative to things like atrazine, but Metribuzin is safe to use in soybeans. Now there are a couple of cautions that we have with Metribuzin. If you have very high soil pH, if you're above 7.4, for example, we start to reduce the amount of Metribuzin that we use, or really the amount of Metribuzin we need, because Metribuzin is very highly active once you get up into higher soil pHs.
Also, if you have very sandy soils, you might have to avoid the use of Metribuzin. Otherwise, again, cut that rate way back. I mean, it's a little bit trial and error for you. But again, if you don't use 3 pre's, you're in really tough shape with a lot of these Roundup resistant weeds. So I don't care what other practices you're using, you're probably going to want to go with this if you've had some big issues on your farm in the past. And when we talk about conventional beans, I tell guys all the time, look, if you're even thinking about planting conventionals, if you don't do 3 pre's, forget about it entirely. I absolutely wouldn't do it because post-emerge, we've got nothing good. And people forget because we've had such great weed control for so many years, they forget how important weed control is. If you don't believe weed control is important, go back to your yield monitor this fall and look at wherever you had weeds and look at the 20 bushel yield loss you had in soybeans. It's enormous. You've got to have great weed control, and in soybeans, that starts with the 3 pre program.
All right, 3 pre's are really important, but will they stop our weed of the week? We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow Agrosciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our weed of the week is carpetweed.
It's really named pretty well. When you think about carpetweed, it's going to cover the ground like a carpet. It stays really low to the ground and it can actually root down at its nodes. So yeah, you can have one plant and all of a sudden it's a real tangled mess out there that's choking everything out. Now normally carpetweed does not compete favorably with tall growing crop, but if you have a little area out there where your crop is thin or where you get a little bare spot, that's a lot of times where we end up seeing carpetweed.
Yeah, so you have to avoid those things, do everything you can nutrient-wise, drainage-wise, anything possible to raise a great crop, and a lot of times crop canopy, that's going to choke it out so you don't even have to worry about it. But let's talk about herbicide options. Let's start first in corn.
Okay, well in corn, you can use one of the broadleaf combination products like a Triple Flex or Sure Start or a Corvus. They'll work well on carpetweed. Post-emerge, I like to use Status. The HPPDs like Impact, Lotus, Callisto, Armazon, they work well too.
All right, in soybeans, we were just talking about the 3 pre-program. That's perfect for carpetweed. You get a yellow out there, plus Metribuzin, plus a PPO like Valor Authority. You'll have excellent control. Post, not a lot of choices. Cobra, maybe Flexstar will have some
Roundup
activity.
and Liberty both work too.
Sure. Yep, it's just you have to get good coverage. Otherwise, you're not going to have very good weed control. So if you have much canopy out there, it's hard to get underneath that canopy with a post killer.
In wheat, we really like Sharpen pre-emerge. It works great as a burn down. It also has soil residual. Then post-emerge, I like Wide Match with Addition Broad Spec. So that's a tank mix that you would make. Addition Broad Spec is really my favorite tank mix partner for Wide Match. It really broadens the weed spectrum.
Well, it's not often when you hear us say this, but carpetweed's actually pretty easy to control for a weed of the week. But nevertheless, you've got to stop it on your farm if you want top yields. That's it for our weed of the week. Stay tuned. Iron Talk is next.
I trust AgroLiquid because I've seen the results and they're positive and they work on my farm, they work in my environment. When I started farming, we was farming around 125 acres and now we're up to around 1,700 acres. I think I was recognized as the Tennessee Young Farmer by being a leader in the community and also being innovative. I'm always looking for new products, but I got to make sure that those products are sustainable. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and I would love for them to farm this land.
How will you secure your farm for the future? The Quasar Chopping Cornhead from Capello USA will help. Our design is focused on efficiency, longevity, and reducing harvest loss, making the Quasar the corn harvest solution to bring your farm forward. With hundreds of units ready for immediate delivery, secure your farm's future today. Do it for your farm, do it for them. Order now. Capello USA, Italian craftsmanship, American grit.
This year's projected U.S. soybean yield will lose over $500 million per point in shrink. Eliminate shrink in your bin. Store grain without lowering moisture content with the AgriDry Bullseye Temperature and Moisture Controller. The Bullseye monitors air temperature and relative humidity, allowing your fans to utilize the weather's natural condition to maintain your grain at market moisture. Fan run times drastically decrease along with the cost of over-drying. Eliminate shrink today. Call now.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Are you wasting money applying the wrong fertilizers on your farm? Here are 3 easy steps to finding out. First, download the free Ag PhD soil test app. Next, pull your own samples. You can probably sample 1,000 acres a day using 5-acre grids. Finally, submit the samples and get both Ag PhD and Midwest Labs recommendations. You can also quickly and easily build your own variable rate application maps and controller files. Go to agphdsoiltest.com to learn more.
Take a look inside any rotary combine, and you'll find single rotor technology. Technology Case IH introduced over 35 years ago with the axial flow combine. But unless it gives you more bells and whistles with fewer belts and chains, more power using less fuel, it's not an axial flow. Because while the heart of every rotary combine beats red, only Case IH gives you the power to do more.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
What kind of spreader does it take to spread lime? We'll answer that question in today's Iron Talk. The agricultural use of lime sure seems to be on the rise based on conversations I've had with farmers this fall and early winter. Raising a low pH back up into the 6s has been a great return on investment on farms across the country. Even in areas where liming has not historically been a common practice, farmers are embracing it due to the positive impacts on yield they're seeing. The other reason liming is on the rise is simply to build the calcium levels in various soils. Whether it's to loosen up a tight, high magnesium clay soil or to balance out fertility levels in general, calcium and especially lime is in demand. If you're spreading pelletized lime, you can use a regular spinner spreader. Unfortunately, you need a specific lime spreader to get the job done in many cases if you're using ag lime or if you're using water treatment plant lime. The chain and paddle drive on a regular spinner spreader will just not be able to move the product. For most farms, it may mean hiring someone else to spread the lime. On our farm, we're using water treatment plant lime from a nearby city, and they've contracted with a professional to spread the lime for people. You could also use a manure spreader if it has vertical beaters. You just have to be very careful that you're getting an even spread in the field with whatever spreader you're using. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune into the Ag PhD radio show. We take your live phone calls each weekday at 2 p.m. Central on SiriusXM Channel 147.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Did you realize that a healthy soil only contains about 50% dirt? In order for the soil microbes and plants to work together properly, soil should contain 25% air and 25% water. Today's farming practices are designed around maintaining that healthy balance. To learn more, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.